Hi everyone, I'm back and I'm going to try and add Dr. Shafina on here with me. My mom, Sharon, is with me as well.
Hi everyone.
So we're going to talk about Lifewave today and how it has changed my life. And Dr. Shafina is going to go into some more detail. So let's see. She can see us yet. Okay, she's right there. So I'm going to add her. See if we can get her to come on. Here we go. Send invite. Okay.
All
Go.
right.
Here, Shafina.
Hi, Kathryn.
I'm so glad we figured this out.
Yeah, it only took a bit. It definitely wasn't going to come from me. I always say I definitely work with my hands and not with technology. So I'm glad you guys were able to figure it out.
Yes. Okay, so do you want to introduce yourself and tell everyone who you are?
Sure. So my name is Dr. Shafina Thawer. I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I've been in practice for 20 years now. I can't believe it, but I got some gray hair to prove it. So been in practice for about 20 years. I really was studying quite avidly when I started chiropractic. I was very dedicated that when I came out, I really wanted to be able to help my patients. So if they came to me and said, "Hey doc, can you help me?" I obviously wanted to be able to say yes. So I was studying a very specific method of chiropractic based on engineering principles called Gonstead chiropractic. So it wasn't maybe what the idea of what a lot of people have in regards to chiropractic is more of a general manipulation, if you will. So Gonstead chiropractic was very specific. So we would use a nervous scope, we would take x-rays, and then really identify exactly the area of interference and remove it. So long story short, by the time I actually got out into practice, and in about 6 months, I got really frustrated because I found that some people would respond and some people wouldn't respond. And that really kicked off my postgraduate career. I've studied numerous different techniques. I've been working with functional medicine since 2011. So really my practice really centers around integrating everything. So meaning structure, chemistry, emotion, energy, spirit. We know that we're holistic beings, and so everything really, everything really comes together. So just having the great blessing and the great privilege to have been able to study under many different masters, I've just been exposed to so many different tools and techniques. And it wasn't until about 3.5 years ago that this little patch came into my world, which I was so happy and so excited about, because it was really the answer to a prayer. I turned 42 that year, and I remember having a moment in front of the mirror, and I was like, I know that's not a double chin that's starting. And you start to notice all the flab in areas that you really don't want to happen. And really literally like 3 weeks later, my friend called me and she's like, "You're not going to believe what I found." And that's when she told me about the X39. And I was like, all right, I want it right away. And it's been pretty amazing, after 3.5 years, just sometimes seeing people that I haven't seen for a really long time and getting that feedback from them, like, whoa, like you look like you haven't aged, or you look like you've gotten younger, or all the other things. So I'm very grateful for what it's done for me, myself, in my life, and what it's done for my patients and my friends and my family. So here we are today.
Yes, welcome. So thank you so much for coming on, and we're going to go through some more details of what this amazing patch is, and you can explain it to people a little more than I could probably. So I will flip my camera around here so that everyone can see my screen and a little bit of what we're going to be talking about. So I'm just going to do it like this. Okay. So we'll go down to the first slide here. All right.
And I'm going to have this up on my computer here, and we'll just, we'll look at it here. This part is important. So, if you go really towards the bottom of the screen, what we want you to remember is that Lifewave products are not intended to cure, treat, diagnose, or prevent any diseases. If you are pregnant, nursing, on medications, or have a medical condition, please consult with your physician. So this is really, this is really important. Again, we're not saying these patches are treating this thing or treating that thing. Really what these patches are designed to do is activate certain physiological processes in your body that we know lead to longevity. And that's really what we're looking at here. So we can go to our next slide. Okay, so the number one question is, have you been patched yet? And, maybe there's some of you that have been and some of you that haven't. And, you can either reach out to Kathryn, and I'm sure she'd be happy to hook you up. But ultimately, one of the things I like to say is that, we're not looking at this as necessarily being like an overnight fixer upper. Really what we're looking at this is the long-term effects of this. So what this patch is actually doing is it's elevating something called the GHK copper peptide. It is a tripeptide that is found in your body. It's found really universally in the plasma, in saliva, and in urine. So what we're doing here is we're elevating the GHK copper peptide. And then what we're doing by virtue is we're activating numerous different processes. But one of the things that we actually activate is the body's ability to start producing stem cells again. So this has been related to the levels of GHK, and the levels of GHK copper peptide drop down to about 10%. So imagine you had a little stem cell bank. This is why kids heal so quickly, right? And then as you age, you start to notice that all of that starts to slow down, right? So, and this is definitely related to the lower levels of GHK that decline with age. So what we're doing is we're elevating the GHK copper peptide, we're activating the body to start producing stem cells again. And by virtue of what we're doing is we're actually regenerating the body from the inside out. So this is done in order of what we call highest priority, or the law of highest priority. So your innate intelligence knows where to direct those stem cells, where they need to go. So for instance, if you've had chronic gut issues or brain issues, liver issues, whatever it might be, your body is going to start directing those stem cells to where it is that they need to go and where they are needed the most. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. And here I think it's important to know about David Schmidt, who's the founder of Lifewave. And this is, this man is absolutely incredible. He is one of those people that you meet, sometimes you meet people and you're like, I don't know, I don't really like that person's energy, or you might even see them on TV or whatever it might be. David is certainly not that man. He is just so amazing. He is so humble. He's absolutely brilliant. So Lifewave was actually founded about 20 years ago. And actually the very first patch was invented when the Department of Defense hired David to figure out a solution for the Navy SEALs. And that's when he came up with what we now have as the energy enhancer patches. And what this was to create a solution to is, as I'm sure you're all aware, the Navy SEALs are really called to very long, arduous missions, right? Where they may be up for days at a time. And so generally what they would do is they would be doping them up on caffeine or different amphetamines or all the other things to try to keep their energy levels up. And David knew that he could figure out a better solution. And that's when he invented energy enhancers. Well, in 2008, David started to shift his attention to stem cell research. And that's what eventually led to the birth of X39. It took 10 years and $4.5 million to bring to market. So this was definitely something that did not happen overnight. So we can move to the next slide. So this is patented technology, okay? And I'm just gonna read this here for you. This is just a little extract from the patent. That, for example, in some embodiments, as a result of elevating copper peptide, including activation of stem cells, improvement in energy, elevation of antioxidants, reduction in inflammation, management of pain, improvements in stamina, elevation of collagen production, and improved wound healing. So what I want you to ask yourself is, who do you know that could not benefit from this, right? I mean, many of you probably have either older parents or grandparents. And you see, for instance, even what happens to their skin, right? If they end up accidentally nicking themselves somewhere, you can see how it just, you know, really can tear their skin, and it takes very, very long for them to heal. So this is what you know, would be a huge benefit in regards to wound healing and all the other things that we just listed here, including the dampening of inflammation, which we know inflammation really underlies every chronic disease and disorder. Okay, so how does X39 work? We can move to the next slide. So X39 is a proprietary form of phototherapy. So some of you may be familiar with red light therapy, for instance, or cold laser therapy, right? When you go to your chiropractor or your physical therapist, you might have had cold laser be used on some old injuries or acute injuries. And that's a form of basically using light to help the body heal. So in this case, we're also using light therapy, which is called phototherapy. But what happens is, in this patch, we have a patented nanocrystalline lattice, you can think of it. And what has happened is David figured out a way to put these organic amino acids, salts, and sugars together in a way that it forms a lattice, that what happens is when we release light from our body, we emit what are called biophotons. This is why when you wear or you see movies with night vision goggles and they're able to see any living creatures, because we emit heat and light. So that light hits the patch, and what it does is when it hits the patch, it gets sent back at a certain wavelength to activate the GHK copper peptide. So these are non-transdermal patches, which means nothing is going into your body. It is simply, it's not even outside light that is going into your body. It is your own light being reflected back in. So that's what non-transdermal means. It's clearly non-invasive, and there's no drugs or chemicals, okay? So that's basically what we're working with here with X39. So we can go to the next slide. So some of the benefits of X39: increased stamina. Who doesn't need that? I know Kathryn can relate to this. Yes. Being a mom of a 3-year-old who is absolutely incredibly adorable. It should be illegal. How he is, who's got tons and tons of energy and keeps her running and going. And as you know, Kathryn and Mark both work. They both work their jobs. They're young, you know, they're young parents. And so increased stamina you don't only necessarily want to think about it in terms of being active and exercising, but how many people could use more stamina just to run their lives? Reduced inflammation. Again, this is huge. Everybody knows that inflammation underlies every chronic disease or illness in the body, right? And especially when now we get into chronic inflammation, it creates a vicious cycle. And, you know, it takes sometimes a lot of intervention to actually stop that cycle from perpetuating. So, I'm gonna actually just put this on Do Not Disturb. Increased strength. This is huge. This is absolutely huge. So again, without even really changing anything, we notice that we start building more muscle, or we have the ability to do things, and we have increased strength with certain things, like maybe even just opening the jar simply by starting to patch. Increased energy and vitality. Again, who doesn't need this, right? You hear people talking about energy issues all the time. I'm not quite sure what the sales of Red Bull are, but I know that they're pretty high, and you see people drinking that all the time. Improved mental clarity. This is really huge, especially in today's day and age when we're around so many electronics and we have so many electromagnetic frequencies that we're exposed to. Also, I mean, you can hear with different food sensitivities and food reactions. We can get chronic inflammation of the brain. And I'm sure you've heard many, many people talk about brain fog, but improved mental clarity is one of the main benefits that we see out of this patch. Restored muscle or skeletal conditions. The cool thing is that you can actually take this patch and you can apply it to anywhere in your body. So there's no wrong way to do it. So if you have old injuries or certain things, areas of your body that haven't been healing, you can actually apply this patch directly to the area. Improvements of sleep. This is huge. I don't know how many of you have gone and had a few nights in a row where you haven't been able to sleep well, but if you've had those days, you know that that ends up impacting your mood. It ends up affecting your ability to focus and concentrate, and it starts creating a whole bunch of different physiological like cascades really in your body. So when we're working with patients and they're not sleeping well, that's typically one of our first goals, is to get them sleeping well. So improvement of sleep is really huge. And then improved skin appearance. I mean, who doesn't want that, right? People are taking collagen supplements and doing everything they can to keep their skin looking young and healthy. Okay. So here what we're looking at is a brain topography map. So what this is really looking at is brain coherence. And this is actually the scan of a 77-year-old woman who was a yoga instructor. And you can see in the first scan, you see how everything looks very polarized. So what that means is the brain really isn't communicating effectively and efficiently, coherently. It's not really working together as one. You can see the areas of red, which indicate inflammation. So what they did was they applied the patch to the back of her neck. And with the second slide there, or the second picture there, is a scan that they did about 3 weeks later. And you can see the massive amount of improvement in that scan. You see there's no more red, no more inflammation, and you can see all the communication is working together much, much better. By the time we get to 6 weeks later, which is in the last picture on the right, you can see literally a complete turnaround and improved stem cell activity is what we conclude with that. So the next slide. So basically, here's what happens when you're looking at the long-term results. Within the first few days, you get over 4,000 genes that are reset. Now, what this means is when you are exposed to, let's just take environmental toxins as an example, emotional trauma can also activate what we call epigenetics. So it can turn certain genes on that shouldn't be on, or turn certain genes off that shouldn't be off. And so when we're resetting about these 4,000 genes, it's actually affecting about a third of the body's genome and helping it reset that to a younger, healthier state, okay? Within about 6 weeks, the brain becomes balanced, which is what we just saw on the previous slide. Within about 3 months, we've got improved collagen. So we've got increased collagen. And within about 6 months, your heart starts to reverse in age. This is so, so huge. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this, but typically the first sign of cardiovascular disease is a heart attack. So, and that's why they call it the silent killer. So for this to actually be able to start helping your heart to reverse in age is absolutely, oh my goodness, it's a godsend, truly. There's nothing else that I could say. So really what we're doing here is we're reversing age. If we go to the next slide, it's really simple. If we want to look at how to wear X39, simple. Simply peel off the sticker and you just stick the adhesive wherever it is that you want to put it. It'll always come with a little booklet. The booklet has points in there that are very powerful acupuncture points, which are the locations on which the clinical studies were conducted. So you basically just put it on, you leave it on for 12 hours. After 12 hours, you take it off, you throw it away, and you do it again. Basically, it's as simple as that. You can wear more than one patch at a time. So I know right now we've mentioned X39 and we've mentioned energy enhancers. You could do both at the same time, i.e. I have energy enhancers on and I have X39 on. Great. So, and then the important thing to remember is as you start patching, to make sure you're drinking enough water. So what's going to happen is you're going to start to improve the physiology of your body, right? And a lot of people think that they're drinking enough water, but they're actually not. They're very, very dehydrated. So as we start patching, the body's also going to start detoxing. And so we want to make sure that we're drinking enough water. Okay. And so when we go to our next slide, I mean, so this is really so sophisticated and so simple. And what we can do is if we look at, we can skip the next slide and we can go to some before and after pictures. Here you can see an older, you know, an older lady that started patching, and you can literally see that she looks younger and she's starting to get the pigmentation and the color back into her hair. If we go to the next picture, you'll see somebody with a very severe scoliosis. And this was using X39 and another patch also called Lifewave. And within 4 weeks, you can see how much her spine has shifted. As a chiropractor, looking at that is absolutely astounding to see that this is being done simply through light and a few stickers, if you will. And then if you go to the next picture, this is our friend, and she was dealing with some major health challenges and didn't even know if she was going to make it. She learned about X39. She's been patching now for about 4 years, I believe. And you can absolutely see how much younger and how much more vital she is. So, you know, this is a quick little summary on these patches and how simple and easy they are. So Kathryn, I'm just going to turn it back over to you and see if you have any questions or if there's anything that we want to clarify.
Yeah. So I also want to say to anyone watching, if you have any questions on this, Dr. Shafina would be happy to answer them. So you can type them in the comments below and I can see what that is. But yeah, so for Black Friday, there's a couple of promos that are incredible right now. They have 30% off for a bundle of the X39. This one, that's the stem cell activating one, and that any issue in your body, it will like go after. It's crazy. And you can watch my testimonial about that. And then energy enhancer bundled with, and then there's this other one, X49. And so so all of these together in a bundle are 30% off right now. And we can go through that more. But Dr. Shafina, could you talk a little bit about X49 since it's part of this Black Friday?
Yes, absolutely. X49 is actually very near and dear to my heart. So X49 is also a stem cell activating patch. However, it's activating a different copper peptide called AHK. And so AHK copper peptide versus GHK, which is found everywhere, AHK is more concentrated in muscle, bone, heart, and brain. So some of the benefits that we see from using X49 is increased bone density, decreased body fat, increased muscle mass, improved cardiovascular function, and actually helps to heal the endothelial lining. So that's the inner part of your blood vessels. So it actually helps to heal that. And also improved cognition and improved brain function, because we're also going to get improved blood flow there. So those are some of the main benefits there. I believe Mark has a pretty powerful testimony with X49, just in terms of,
yeah.
Right?
So
you want to share a little bit about his story?
Yeah, so I'll do a quick little thing on that right now. Mark is going to do a little video and talk about X49 and how it's helped him so much. But yeah, X49, you will notice physical changes, as the biggest thing is with your strength and your stamina. Like normally as a mom or a dad, even, you can't go to the gym all the time, too much going on. And so it's like, yeah, you're lifting your kid here and there, but full on workout. So what happens over time? You lose muscle, and muscles you're not working out. But what 49 we have found does is, like, if you work out once a week, you keep that muscle. It keeps your muscle active. Like, it doesn't go away. Like, so Mark will go a month now without working out because he just doesn't have time. He'll go and he can still do the same, I don't know, 40 pull-ups or whatever he does. And it's like he just worked out the day before. So it keeps that muscle. And that's just like insane. And Mark has always been body conscious. And so he always wants to make sure he looks good, but he's never just in a resting pose, like had his muscles defined before. He's always been muscular, but now he'll just be like sitting at the table and you can just see like muscle definition in his arms, and it's insane. And he doesn't even work out all the time. It's just whenever, and just wearing this patch every day, it just keeps the muscle like as how it was the last time you worked out. It's crazy. So we're going to post some pictures in the group of before and after, so you can look forward to that. And it's pretty crazy. So we'll do that. But I've also been wearing X39, and for me, the biggest thing that I found it helps with is brain fog. Like, especially when I'm tired. If I was up all night with Theodore and then like I have to work a 12-hour shift or something, I would usually be exhausted. So these patches have really upped my energy level. But X49, when I wear that one, I'm able to think clearer. Like I am not as flustered and like foggy with my entire life. And so yeah, just wearing that one, I can like get my task done it like much easier, and like will talk to me and I'm able to in more and the whole thing. So I love it.
Amazing. I love it too.
Yeah. Okay. And then so these ones are bundled in a deal. And so the energy enhancer dropped it. But this one here, do you want to give a little spiel about this? We kind of talked yesterday in a little quick video about it, how we wear it, but can you explain like what this one does and the little backstory about the app?
Yeah, actually. So as I mentioned, you know, this was actually the patch that started the company for Lifewave, and the Navy SEALs actually still use this patch. But within a few years, actually, after it was introduced, there was Olympic athletes that were using it, and there's pictures of various different athletes that have competed and use these patches, especially when they're training and especially when they're performing. So yeah, I think that I want to say that it was in 2004 or it was in 2008, one of the 2 years where the U.S. Olympic team just was kicking butt, and many of the teams were patching, and it actually ended up having to go to the board to see if this was okay. But because there's nothing going into the body, it was found to be just fine. So essentially what the energy enhancers are doing is they're actually upregulating cellular activity. So you're starting to break down fat and convert that into energy. That's basically what it is that you're doing. It's also helping to improve the bioelectrical activity of the body. So when you think about the acupuncture meridians, that's all information and energy flow, right? So essentially when you're using the energy enhancers, it's actually helping to increase and improve that. So what's really cool, and sometimes what I'll do with my patients, just actually to be able to demonstrate, is if you were to actually just give a little push, like if you were standing and you were to give a little push at the collarbone, both sides, most of the time you're going to find that you'll fall over, you're going to lose your balance. If you just take the energy enhancers, and let's say you were just to put them right here, or just you could put them right on top of the foot, you could put it anywhere. It's a 2-patch system, so the white one goes on the right and the tan one goes on the left. If you were just actually to place it there literally within seconds, you could do the same little push and you'll notice that you'll actually be able to stand your ground, right? So this is really huge for improving performance, for improving cognition, and this is how we're actually improving energy. And I feel like you have a really powerful story in regards to how this helped your sister.
Yes. So my sister Carolyn has been energy enhancers, and she was very skeptical at first. But I gave her a couple to try because she's my sister, and I'm like, you have to try these things because we both work very stressful jobs, and she loves horses. And so when she goes to horse shows, she's up at like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and then she goes all day. And then one day she had to go home and work and had hit this deadline, and it was insane. She woke up at 2 in the morning. She put the energy enhancers on. She's like, try it. And then she calls me as she's driving home from the horse event, and she would normally be exhausted, and she's just like so bubbly and happy and like, I'm gonna go work. And then she worked until like midnight that night, and she's like, oh my gosh, I was fine. I got so much work done that day that I couldn't get that much work done in a week. And I had a similar experience the first time I used it, where I was exhausted. I was up all night with Theodore. He was sick. I had a deadline for work, and so I didn't sleep at all. I got an then I put this on, and then I'm crazy. I got a week's worth of work done today because I don't know, I think it like focus too.
Mm-hmm.
And you just, it's not like a coffee jolt. Like you never get a crash. You just have like a constant alertness and you just feel good. And then I was done with work and then I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so good. And Mark was like playing with Theodore. So I'm like, I'm gonna go take the dog for a walk. So I took the dog and we went for a 2-mile walk and I come back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did all of this and I was fine. Okay, I got to take these off now because I have to go to sleep. But yeah, they're pretty incredible. So you don't have to use those ones every day, but it's definitely great when you are, or I think there's some other benefits too. Like, don't they energize the cells and help when you're sick?
Say that one more time.
Are there some, I think I read there's some other benefits of the energy enhancer where they energize the cells. So when you're sick, it helps you like fight.
Absolutely, because it's upregulating the production of ATP. So, you know, it's great to be able to use under those circumstances too. And again, like you said, it's not something necessarily that you need to use every day. It is something that really helps very, very quickly. In fact, one of my friends, her daughter has 4 babies that are all about a year apart. So you can imagine, and I believe the oldest one is 4. So you can imagine. And she was literally going through, I can't remember how many cups of, or whether they were pots of coffee. It was really, really crazy. And so, you know, her mom had given her some of, you know, some of the other patches, but when she started using energy enhancer, I mean, it totally just turned her world around. So it's just been absolutely amazing. So again, not something necessarily you have to use every day, but great if you're an athlete, great if you want to perform, and great for those days that you just need a little extra energy.
Yeah, so those ones are great. Does anyone have any questions so far? And you can type in the chat below if you're wondering anything. Great opportunity to get your questions answered. But I guess, can you also talk about like how safe are these? Are there side effects? Are they gonna damage anything? Or like, can you wear them too much? Or
Well, so here's the thing. I'm going to go back to say that, you know, if you're somebody who's generally well, first of all, again, there's nothing that's going into your body, right? So you're not worried about it interacting with anything. However, if you are on medications or you have some chronic conditions, the reason why you want to consult with your medical provider is because you may be taking, you're on the medication to basically facilitate a certain reaction, right? So the doctor may have certain goals, and as you start healing from the inside out, what we're doing is we're repairing and we're regenerating. So your need for some of the medications may change. You know, for somebody who obviously was an organ transplant, no, we wouldn't be using X39, right? So there's certain variations. So if you have questions about anything, then you always want to consult with your doctor. But remember, nothing is going into your body, so you don't have to worry about it really interacting with anything. That's why when we talked about, you know, with the Olympics, it's fine because there's nothing going into your body. It's simply your own light that's being reflected back. So they're very safe, basically, long and the short of it.
yeah, so just some names of people who used them that I know. If you look back at pictures of the Olympics, you'll see Michael Phelps used them, Serena Williams, and the Olympic Committee actually tested them, and there's nothing on them, so they're not a drug. So they use them during the game. Crazy,
right?
So it just gave them. So the energy enhancer increased your performance. That when they wore them, that their times, everything, like for Michael Phelps, it just gave him like a couple more seconds ahead of his best anytime he was wearing them.
Right.
So yeah, my mom's right here too. Do you want to say anything? She's been wearing them as well.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, I had met with Dr. In April, and she introduced me to the patches then, and I started wearing the 9 and the X39. And actually, another patch that I mentioned yet is the Eon that I've also been using. And I've definitely found that they've really helped quite a bit. I actually had surgery in August And after the surgery, during the surgery, the doctor had discovered there was another cyst that was being blocked by the tumor that he had removed. And he said to me, he said, well, we're going to keep an eye on it. You're probably going to have to go back to that as well. And he wasn't able to do it the same day that he did the one surgery. And I went in for my post-op, and 2 days later, it was still there. He had checked, and it was, and he said, we're going to keep an eye on it. And I think I went back 2 weeks later, and within the week, it had totally disappeared. So that, you know, well, you know, the patches are definitely doing things. The other thing he had told me as well was 2 days after my post-op, he said to me, you're way ahead of healing from where you should be in this procedure. So he was really surprised at how quickly I was actually healing following the surgery.
Yeah, didn't he say like 2 days you were at, or
yeah,
or 2 weeks later?
Yeah, it definitely sped things up quite a bit. So, you know, you don't feel any different. You realize, you know, that anything's happening, but then look back, it's like, wow. So, and that was definitely an incident where I had kind of concrete proof that, you know, something was there, and then it actually, you know, was taking care of the body of it. So, and I can only assume that that was because of, you know, the patches that I.
And you wore them throughout that whole process.
Yes, and I was wearing them through the process.
You were wearing, these are, so X39, X39, and the other one she's talking about here is Eon. This is on sale for Black Friday with other patches. So if you hear about them, we can talk about them briefly, but really the E1 here is 39. Eon is amazing because what does this one do, Dr. Shafina?
So the Eon also really helps to dampen inflammation, and it helps to balance the nervous system. So when you, who do you know that doesn't have stress in their lives, right? So what the studies have shown is within about 20 minutes, we get a balancing of the nervous system. So those are two major functions of Eon. It's also age reversing, but we can talk about more about that another time. But, you know, using X39, David Schmidt, even the founder, and even though we have many patches, you know, says that if it really came down to it, it would be X39 and Eon. So what happens is when you use the two of them together, because the Eon is dampening inflammation, it actually helps the X39 work 30 to 40% better. And that is a huge benefit. So you can imagine when your body starts activating and mobilizing these stem cells and they're going to the site of inflammation, you can imagine that there's like a little battle that happens there. So when you're using Eon, it's basically going in and starting the fight there and getting that inflammation dampened. So now we can get the stem cells into the area and we can get it to start healing.
Yes. Okay. So does anyone have any questions so far? So yeah, if you're interested in any of these, you can follow up with me and I can show you how to get these deals. The deals go till December 3rd. So that's really exciting. And there's retail pricing and then there's wholesale pricing. And I can explain that to you, but wholesale pricing saves so much money. So I'd highly recommend that. And I can set you up with the wholesale account. So just reach out and I'd be happy to help anyone because yes, they have changed my life and my mom's life. We also have other families on them as well. And everyone is noticing different things. But also, I'll just say something I know about my mom when she started wearing them. In the spring, she was very sick. We didn't know what was wrong with her, but she was sleeping all the time. She just did not seem like her. We were all very concerned. Something was wrong. We couldn't figure it out. So I had her start going to Dr. Shafina whenever she would come to California. And she actually, we're so thankful for you, Dr. because
Thank you.
we're able to help my mom when she couldn't get any other doctors to call her back and things were happening and it was very scary. And she was getting test results in portals and the doctors wouldn't, and there were some scary things coming up. And yeah, so now since she's been wearing these patches, she has so much more energy and my mom was taking naps like 3 times a day, which is just not her. She is always going, going, going. And she is back to her old self and definitely like going, going, going. Like yesterday for Thanksgiving, she woke up at like 5 a.m. and she didn't go to bed till 1 a.m. And I'm like, how are you standing? But I did put energy enhancers on her. So
Yeah, Kathryn asked me if my back was bothering. Oh yeah, it is kind of a little bit. And she said, let's put energy enhancers on.
yes.
And she did, and actually it was funny because it did go away.
Yeah.
So I
yeah,
didn't feel it after.
I read this somewhere. So there's also a pain relief patch, but energy enhancers kind of use that way as well. So if you have back pain, you can put them on either side of the back pain, and they help energy in your body in that area. I was on my feet for so long that my back was hurting, and literally within 2 minutes, my back pain was gone, and I'm like, this is amazing. And then the rest of the day, I thought about it last night, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it never came back. Like, I'm fine. It's just crazy how like insanely well these things work and how many people don't know about them. So we just wanted to spread the word and make people even aware that they exist, because they're just such amazing, so amazing. And yeah.
They are amazing, and you have such an amazing testimony. So I would just encourage anybody who hasn't seen your video yet. Your video testimonial, I feel like, is very, very powerful, because you were dealing with some very, very serious health issues, and it's just so amazing to see you both and your whole family just really be thriving. And I'm just so grateful for that, because you know, ultimately as healers or doctors, like, what do we want to do? We want to help facilitate your healing so that you don't really have to see us anymore, which I don't really have to see you guys anymore, right? I mean, it's so, which is really, really amazing. And that's really the goal. So
yeah. All right, sounds good. So thank you so much for doing this. Thank you everyone for watching. Does anyone, I'll just ask again, if you have a question, you can type it in the comments, or if not, you can always send me a message and we could do a 3-way chat with Dr. She's happy to advise as well with the patches. Is that correct?
yes, happy to help.
Okay. And happy Thanksgiving. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.